Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manoj Agarwal, and today we'll be talking with Cameron Harold. So, Cameron is an entrepreneurial force who has revolutionized how companies achieve exponential growth. Known globally as the CEO Whisperer, Cameron is the founder of the COO Alliance and invest in your leaders' training programs, transforming leadership teams into high performance dynamos. As the former COO of 1 800 Got Junk, he masterminded the company's explosive growth from $2 million to $106 million in just 6 years, cementing his reputation as a business growth virtuoso. A top rated international speaker, Cameron has captivated audiences in 26 countries across all seven continents, including Antarctica. His accolades include a resounding endorsement from Forbes publisher Rich Karlgaard, who proclaimed Cameron Herald is the best speaker I've ever heard. He hits grand slams. Cameron's thought leadership extends to his podcast, Second in Command, and six best selling books, including The Second in Command, Vivid Vision, and Meetings Suck. These resources offer actionable strategies that have empowered countless entrepreneurs to achieve transformational results. Whether inspiring a Fortune 500 boardroom or coaching emerging startups, Cameron's proven frameworks continue to define the future of business leadership worldwide. Welcome, Cameron.
Manoj, thanks very much. Appreciate that. And it's funny you just mentioned me being the prior COO of 1 800 Got Junk. My wife was walking around Sydney, Australia yesterday, and she saw one of the
Yeah,
1
yeah, yeah,
800
yeah.
Got Junk trucks in Sydney. So it was kind of cool.
Amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. And moreover, we both belong to Vancouver. 1 800 Got Junk started here, so I'm in Vancouver as well. So
Yeah.
creates a lot of connection between us. But before we get into all that, like, help us understand who you are, how you got started. What led you to this level of success. Your backstory.
I guess I really was groomed as an entrepreneur. My father and both sets of grandparents were entrepreneurs, and they raised my brother and my sister and myself to all be entrepreneurs. That's really all we've ever done. I had my first entrepreneurial company when I was 20 years old. I had 12 full-time employees working for me, painting houses. My brother and sister and I have all run our own companies for the last kind of 25 years. So just kind of growing up in that environment.
That's nice. And so, being an entrepreneur, generally people they want to be the leaders. They want to make all the decisions. But you have really sort of positioned yourself as the COO, second in command. Like, so how did that happen?
Well, Brian and I, so Brian was the founder of 1 800 Got Junk, and I had already played the second in command role for a couple of different businesses. I was a partner in a chain of auto body collision repair shops where I was the second in command of the franchising group for what became Boyd Auto Body. I opened the
Mm-hmm.
West Coast of the United States for a group called College Pro Painters, which was effectively the
Yeah,
second in
yeah.
command role there, and then was the president of a private currency company reporting to the board and the CEO. So again, in the second in command role. So I've been in that role a few different times. And then when Brian needed someone to help him scale 1 800 Got Junk, I was kind of the natural go-to. Even though I was very entrepreneurial, I had also played that second in command role. So I really understood what it's like to be the yin and yang to that entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But how do you, like, there are a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders in the audience. Like, how do you, I mean, sometimes doesn't the ego come in the way? Like, okay, why should I be the second in command? I mean, there must be something, like, obviously we need people with various skill sets. So how do you groom people to say, to actually get over that ego bump and say, okay, I want to run the show from behind the scenes?
Most COOs have no desire to be the entrepreneur. It's like most men have no desire to be a woman. Most dentists don't have any desire to be a doctor.
Mhm.
Most COOs want to be in an operations role. Maybe they don't want the risk. Maybe they don't want maybe they want more security. Maybe they're not kind of in that visionary role and they want to help someone else make their dreams happen. Entrepreneurship, I think, has been made too trendy, too cool. There's a lot of pain and suffering that goes with being an entrepreneur, right? I think it
Yeah.
takes a long time to get to the night before you're the overnight success story. People don't remember that Brian at 1-800-GOT-JUNK took 12 years to go from 0 to 2 million.
Wow.
And then 6 years, we went from 2 million to 106.
Mhm.
But all of the struggles, like I remember when Brian would walk to work wearing slippers. I remember when Brian was driving his grandmother's car because he couldn't afford a car and couldn't afford to pay himself. Most people don't want that. And then there's other people who are just quite happy being, Sheryl Sandberg was the COO for Facebook for 15
Yeah.
years. She had no desire to ever be an entrepreneur. Harley Finkelstein is the COO for Shopify and has been for 15 years, has no desire to be an entrepreneur. Harley's worth probably $100 million because he was the COO for Shopify.
Yeah. Well, that's fair point for sure. You have shared a lot of insights in your books. Vivid Vision, I've read it, like amazing. But what is your secret? Like, obviously you have done so much, and now you're traveling the world. What are your secrets to this exponential growth? Like, how do you apply this in multiple industries, multiple companies? Some of the tips and tricks that people may find in your books, but something summarized that you can share now.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I left 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which was now 17 years ago, I took 3.5 months off. I was in Vancouver. I decided to play a lot of golf and do a lot of hiking and spend a lot of time with my young kids. And I decided to journal and write every day. And every day I wrote for 20 minutes a day. And I made lists of what am I good at and what am I terrible at, what gives me energy and what drains me of energy. I made lists of every project I've ever led and every business area I've ever overseen and every failure I've ever had, every success I've ever had in business. And I ended up with this huge, long list that I started to really understand myself. And one of the things I realized that I did very well over the years was I delegated everything except genius. I kept finding the things I was really good at and hiring people and training people and delegating to people to let them do the work. Even when I was running my house painting business, I painted personally, my business did about $500,000 in painting. And then when I was working for the head office, millions. But when I was doing the $500,000 of painting in the summer, I never touched a paintbrush. I wasn't the one, I didn't like painting. I didn't like anything about it really. So I just hired people, treated them really well. And then what I did was work with the customers, did sales, did marketing, did hiring, and made sure that someone else trained my people. So just at a very early age, I found the stuff that I was really good at and I stayed with that. And I think that's been one. Second is got really good at delegation. And I think so many times people think, oh, I don't have anyone I can delegate that to, so I'll just keep doing it. What I do is I decide who I can delegate to, I train them, and I get it off my plate. I constantly look for things to get off my plate.
Yeah. And I've been following your content as well. Like, I feel like you have this really unique ability to recognize people, and you're such a people person. Like, how do you hire? Like, what is the difference between your hiring process and because in order to delegate, you need to get the right people, and so how do you get so consistent at that?
One thing I realized early on was you really have to hire for both the cultural fit, right? The core values and cultural fit with your company, and the proven skill set. So I always try to look for people that have done what I need them to do and that fit in with what I'm looking to do. Sometimes I pay a little bit more than industry would pay. I pay a little bit more than the average. I make sure that I treat people really, really well. But I'm always hiring people that have already done it before. And I think often companies hire people they really like, but haven't got the skills, so they just don't get that momentum. And then I've always looked at 1A replaces 3Cs, right? If you hire one really great person, I was talking to a professional volleyball player in Dubai a couple of weeks ago. He plays beach volleyball, and I said, if you got one of your friends that plays beach volleyball professionally, and the two of you played against me and 5 of my friends, you'd kick our ass. Even though I played volleyball in high school and college, 2 of the best would kill 6 of average. So it's kind of like if you hire 2 people and pay them $150,000 a year each, that's $300,000 for 2 people. And then if you hire 6 people and you pay them $80,000 a year each, that's $480,000. Those 2 at 300 are going to kill the 6 at 480. And so people somehow, and entrepreneurs think more people is better. Whereas what I
Mm-hmm.
believe is the best people are better.
That's interesting. So, like, is your strategy also like, sort of getting rid of the people at the bottom? Like, how
It's
do you handle
it's less about firing the bottom people and it's more about hiring the right people at the beginning.
that?
It's more about being very decisive about what do I need, what are the skills I need, what are the core values and traits I need, how do I find somebody who already has that, who has lived that, who's proven that, so that I don't have to fire again. I
I
had an
see.
entrepreneur say to me one time, this was someone in one of my group coaching programs, and he said, "Oh, it'll take me about 3 months to know if I hired the right person." I said,
Mm-hmm.
"That's because you suck at interviewing, right? If you were
Mm-hmm.
really, really good at interviewing, you would have known that's the right person or the wrong person before they even start." But I
Yeah.
think because companies don't train their people, right? It's why one of the modules in my Invest in Your Leaders, that online training, is the interviewing module, is so that companies understand how to actually interview and select people and do it properly.
So, are you at the liberty to share like a couple of questions that are unique to you? Like, I mean, that because for me as well, like in my experience, it takes a couple of months to understand. Okay, is this person really good fit or not? Even though we are doing some new interesting things with AI to streamline that, but what is your take on this?
Yeah, it's less about the questions, right? Anybody can go on ChatGPT and say, give me 5 questions to ask about leadership. Give me 5 questions to ask about tenacity. Give me 5 questions to ask about precision. So it's not about the questions. It's more about probing and making sure that you really understand the answer. So as an example, years ago, I asked a guy, why do you ride your bicycle to school? Oh, I like getting exercise. I'm like, now, come on, really? Why do you ride your bike to school? Well, I kind of enjoy just slowing my morning down and getting to see the city. I'm like, well, okay, you've given me 2 answers now. Why do you like riding your bike to school? Well, I'm broke. I'm like, okay, so you ride your bike because you're broke, not because of the exercise. Yeah, I guess because I'm broke. Why'd you tell me that? So I keep probing, right? So I think one of the arts of interviewing is the entrepreneur or the interviewer shutting up, asking questions, asking why, asking why, asking why, asking why, and really kind of poking in around it. And sometimes it's not even about the answer that the candidate gives, it's the way that they're answering. It's
Yeah.
watching their body language, listening to their intonation. It's watching the way that they kind of craft an answer. So again, it's not about the questions. And I try to talk about that in my Invest in Your Leaders training too.
That's great. And so, you mentioned training as well a few times, and also, I have built many teams myself, and when we get a lot of A players, there's again their egos start to jump in, and like how do you create that team environment, like a collaborative? Even if you are hiring the best A
Yep.
players, sometimes the best A players are the biggest pain in the ass. So, like, how do
Well,
you?
yes, but sometimes the best A players that are the pain in the ass should go work for another company because you hired somebody that culturally doesn't fit. So the key
Mhm.
is to hire the A players that don't have ego. You hire the
Mm.
A players that always want to grow. So I think back to the Vancouver Canucks back in the mid 2000s when Bertuzzi was playing for the Canucks.
Yeah,
Bertuzzi was
yeah.
this kind of egomaniac inside of a very humble team, right? And I was
Mhm.
working with the assistant coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Mike Johnson, at the time. I was teaching them about company culture. He was teaching us about sports culture. And he recognized that Bertuzzi was kind of the odd person out. He didn't fit culturally, even though he was such a good player. So they got Bertuzzi off the team. And I think that's what companies have to look for is recruit, hire, and train A players who want to grow. Recruit, hire, and train A players who do not show ego. They show confidence, right? And there's a line between confidence and
Mhm.
cocky. So
Yeah.
it's really looking to hire those right people right from the beginning, set them up for success, and then hiring people that always want to continue growing. The best athletes in the world have coaches. They don't sit down and go, "Oh, I'm the best athlete. I don't need coaching." So it's probably that companies hire the wrong people.
Good. All right. So, after going through all this that you have achieved, I'm sure you made some mistakes, learned some lessons. So, can you share some of those with us as well? Because I also believe like there are no mistakes; they are just basically lessons hidden in disguise. So, what are your
Yeah.
lessons?
Oh gosh, around hiring.
No, I mean, whatever comes to top of your mind. Yeah.
Well, one is that it's really about giving the skills of interviewing and the skills of preparing for an interview and the skills of doing reference checks to anyone inside of your company that hires and manages people, right? I think
Mhm.
so often people inside of an organization don't have the basic skill sets, and the entrepreneurial companies haven't set them up for success.
I
I
see.
think
I see.
often companies assume that people have skills. So I remember one time we hired a guy out of Crystal Decisions, which became Business Objects in Vancouver. And he used
Mhm.
to run the sales center, the call center for Business Objects. So one day he was really struggling with recruiting. He had to hire 30 people for our call center. This was back around 2003. And he was
Mhm.
really struggling with it. And I said to Brian, the CEO, do you mind if I sit down and meet with him? He said, sure. And I sat down with the head of the call center and I said, hey, it feels like you're struggling. It feels like you don't really know how to recruit these people. He goes, no, I've never done it before. I'm like, well, when you were at Crystal Decisions, you were running a team of 20. How did the recruiting there go? He said, I used to phone HR and say, I need 3
Mhm.
salespeople. And they would show up on Monday with 3 new salespeople. I'm
I
like, so you
see.
never did any recruiting? He goes, no, I did no recruiting. I did no interviewing. I did no
Mhm.
hiring. All I did was train the bodies they gave me. So we had assumed that because he'd been a manager, he'd done interviews. I think a lot of companies kind of run on those same assumption sets.
I see. I see. So it sounds like we have a common friend, Steve Sims. One of the things that he always says, guard your door, because if you get a wrong person in, it's much more difficult to get them out. It seems like you are following the similar strategy, like really guard your
Yeah.
uh, front door and make sure the right people come in.
I've told people in the job interview before that they have to emotionally commit to stay with me for at least 2 years, that this is the most important thing I've ever built, and they have to treat it the same way. If I find out anything about them after they start working for me that they haven't told me in the job interview, I'm going to chase them down the street with a baseball bat and beat the shit out of them. And then I laugh
Mhm.
and I say, like,
Mhm.
tell me the bad stuff about you. Yeah, I make it really, really very clear that this is a very important thing that we're building, and I don't want to screw this thing up. And don't pretend that you're someone you're not, because if I find out other stuff, you're going to end up getting fired for it. So everybody has bad stuff. Tell me your bad stuff. Again,
Yeah,
that's a skill that interviewers need, is to probe. Skill that interviewers need is to disarm the candidate, to make them feel comfortable to tell you the bad stuff. It's not
yeah.
about what interview question you ask. And again, that's
So
that's why I try to teach that.
yeah. No, that's great. So you in order to like evaluate people the way that you evaluate, like you have to have emotional intelligence, you have to have empathy, but then you in the same tone you also are tough and almost like as you put it, like chase them down the street with a baseball bat. Like that's being ruthless. Like how do you
Well, but I
have?
no, but I don't operate that way as a leader.
Oh
That's
no,
a
I
skill.
get that. I
That's
get that.
that's a statement. That's a statement
Yeah,
that I
yeah, yeah.
use in the interview to disarm and to make it right. But I operate with what I call firm but fair. So in the
Okay.
day-to-day of managing and leading people, I'm very firm but fair.
Yeah. So I didn't take it literally, but that's what I my question is, like, how do you balance both your empathetic side and the firm side?
Well, one is to remember that everybody is struggling, right? We're all just walking each other home, right? Our
Mhm.
job is to take care of the other person, to light up their homes. I even have a tattoo on my arm that is in Hindi about lighting up each other's homes, walking each other
Yeah.
home. To
Yeah.
remember that our job is to just take care of each other. So
Mhm.
I show up as an empathetic leader, remembering that everyone is struggling with their spouse or their kids or their home or their dog or their parents, their weight, their health, whatever.
Mhm.
Everybody is going
Mhm.
through this human condition,
Mhm.
and we have a job to do. So it's like,
Mhm.
I'll care about you, but we have to get the work done, right? So I try to make sure that they know that I care and we have something to do. I try to make sure that we know that people struggle, so then I try to train them, or that they have a confidence issue or a skill issue or a connections issue, and I'm trying to help people gain the connections and skills and confidence to do better in their job. So I kind of flip the org chart upside down. I visualize the CEO and the entrepreneur at the bottom of the org chart, supporting the VPs, supporting the managers, supporting the employees who are supporting the customers, almost like an inverted pyramid. And our job is
Mhm.
not to tell people what to do and manage them and hold them accountable. It's to support them and grow them and give them the confidence. So I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
by showing up that way that I just work out better as a leader.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is travel. You are passionate about travel, like you're traveling the world, but you're also running these masterminds, these communities, these organizations. So, how do you like? What is the importance of travel, first of all? And then I can ask a follow up question, like how do you run this while traveling?
Yeah, my wife and I decided about 3.5 years ago to sell everything and travel the world. She was going to travel right as COVID was starting, and COVID kind of hit and delayed her plans a little bit. I've always been a global traveler. I'd been to probably 30 or 35. I think I've been to almost 40 countries by the time I'd met her, and had always kind of loved adventure. And then when COVID hit, I kind of got a little bit stir crazy and just didn't want to have to stay in one place forever. And then my youngest son decided he was going to go to school in Montreal, which is, 4,000 kilometers away from Vancouver. He was almost as close to London, England as he was to Vancouver living in Montreal.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
just decided to sell everything and travel. And that's what we've been doing.
No, but I mean, so that's great. Like that's a sense of adventure. But do you think it shapes you as a human as well? Like,
Oh,
it.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, a lot of things shape me as a human, right? The fact that I wake up in the morning and I have two golf shirts, I have three
Mhm.
long sleeve. So I have very minimal amount of clothing. Everything I
Mhm.
own fits in 2 suitcases.
I
The
see.
fact that I can just disconnect and work from different Airbnbs around the world. Currently, I'm in Sydney, Australia, so I have to be very flexible at where I
Mhm.
am and and
Mhm.
and adapting to environment. I have to be
Mhm.
very good at problem solving, finding a new gym, finding a new grocery store. So it's taught me to adapt. It's taught me to be very comfortable where I am. It's taught me to
Mhm.
kind of guess embrace the sense of adventure. It's also really given me more balance because I wake up in the morning and I either, depending on which parts of the world I'm in, as an example, today I have calls for about 5 hours straight, and then I'm going to disconnect. My wife and I are going to go for lunch with my niece who lives in Sydney and is doing some work here. Then I have the afternoon off to go and explore a little bit. Then I'll go to the gym in the afternoon. If I'm in Europe, I usually have all morning to myself, and then I really work hard from 1 o'clock until 7 o'clock, and then I disconnect. So I
Mhm.
probably work less. I delegate more. I work on the critical few things. I probably explore the cities more and have more fun just being out enjoying life. If I was just in Vancouver every day, I end up eating my sandwich at the house. I end up staying in the house and working more. I end up going to the same gym all the time, the same coffee shop. So I end up in a routine, which I don't think
Mhm.
is as rich a life that I could have had.
Absolutely. I mean, that you're living the dream life. But my question again, maybe most likely the audience will have this question: like, can you live this lifestyle without you becoming mega successful, or like how do you, like say a younger person, a younger version
Yeah,
of you?
sure. So if you think about, let me go back to me being a younger person. I had rent, so you can stay in places that are, Airbnbs or youth hostels or, co-working places, co-living places. If you're living in a city, you're typically buying clothes. Well, you're probably going to buy less clothes. If you're living on the road, you can go to a grocery store and make food where you are. Like I had a bowl of granola with some berries this morning for breakfast. I would have had the same breakfast in Vancouver, so that costs the same. I don't have a car. I don't have car insurance. I don't have house repairs. So, you offset, right? Um,
Mhm.
I'm not saving money for vacation because I'm always on vacation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
right.
That's great. So now let's.
It's funny. Like my brother was just commenting about that this morning. He's stuck in Sudbury, Ontario, up in Canada, and it's minus 35 degrees Celsius there
Oh
today. And
my
my
goodness.
sister's in Costa Rica, and my brother said, "What's wrong with this? Christy's in Costa Rica, Cameron's in Sydney, Australia. And I'm stuck in the winter in Sudbury."
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's because he has overhead, he has debt, he
Mm.
has that routine, and I've just chosen to not have any of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's excellent. So now let's turn a conversation a little bit towards my favorite topic, which is AI. And I see
Mhm.
that you are doing quite a bit in AI as well as pretty much every smart person is. So what is it that you're doing? What does your crystal ball say? How will the world change And what advice do you give to people about AI?
Yeah, I was just paid to speak at an event a couple of weeks ago in Dubai. I was speaking to 2,500 people in Dubai, and I was talking that AI is not going to replace you in your job. A person using AI will replace you in your
Hmm.
job.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if I
yeah.
think back to 24 years ago, I walked into 1-800-GOT-JUNK and I said to Brian, I told Brian about Google, and he's like, "What the hell is Google?" And we couldn't imagine life without Google. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
he
yeah.
he saw me with my laptop. He's like, "What are you gonna do? Carry your laptop from meeting to meeting?" And I said, "Yeah."
Right.
2 days later, he bought a laptop.
Yeah,
I had to
yeah, yeah.
fight with my head of IT to put Wi-Fi in. So I'm
Mm,
always on the kind of early adopter innovator stage of adopting technology. But I think everyone will be using AI in their businesses or they'll be out of business. And I saw a
yeah.
saying about that that said if the rate of change outside your business is greater than the rate of change inside your business, you're out of business. So we have
Hmm.
to adapt, or if we don't, we adapt or die, right? I just did a post to my COO Alliance members yesterday. I said, if we had an AI expert present for 40 minutes and you got 20 minutes Q&A, and we did this as an additional 60-minute monthly call, would you want us to line up 6 months of AI experts? We'd hold the calls at the same time as our normal monthly mastermind calls, and we'll run them every 2 weeks. What do you think? I said, yes is a full body F yes or no.
Hmm.
14 of the 14 respondents have been yes. So
Right.
I'm going to get an expert to come and speak to our CO Alliance members every single month for 6 months, in addition to the normal calls that we already do. I think
Okay.
it's just like we need to it's almost like reading all the tips on how to use your iPhone. If you don't read the tips on how to use your iPhone, you're not getting the best productivity. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to find different experts, whatever the experts are. I'm also trying to do what I call a book club, where members share what they're using AI for and they show how they're using AI in their business because we don't
Yeah,
know what it can do. So it's
absolutely.
just kind of getting exposure to that. And then I
Okay.
also
Well,
like employees to, lastly, I like employees to play with AI for 1 or 2 hours every week and report back on what they were playing with and how they were able to help it in their job. There's a dashboard called There Is an AI for that shows roughly 15,000 different AI tools that exist. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's
I'm all
amazing.
over it.
Nice, nice, nice. So we can discuss that about speaking to your community. But in terms of industry adoption, you talking to a lot of people. What do you see the trend is? Like, are people actually adopting it? Are they just curious, or what's happening from your vantage point?
I think people are adopting it. Yeah. And it's interesting to watch the companies that are doing stuff that is just very different from, Chat GPT, right? People are using Claude, people are using Gemini, people are using Perplexity, people are using Grok. And it's interesting to hear them using different tools. People are using Descript, people are using Be Human. I was just working with a team from Delphi to get my AI avatar created. So I think we're seeing the adoption start happening across different companies in very, very different ways. The key is to keep our eyes and our ears open to understand it's a tool that can make us productive, right? It's a tool that
Mhm.
can make us more efficient. And if anybody who's sitting down, pushing against it, saying, "Oh, it's coming too quickly," or "Oh, it's not for me," you're out of business because some
Mhm, mhm.
competitor will be able to outperform you. Their employees will be happier. They'll gain more customers. They'll reduce overhead. So yeah, I think you have to be all over this stuff.
Awesome. And one more question is like, as somebody who has been in this AI field for about 20 years, like I noticed a lot of people are basically scratching the surface. Most of the AI uses mostly in the marketing use cases, like writing copy and, uh, uh, like superficial use cases, in my opinion. Have you seen adoption in more serious, like automating the backend processes,
Oh
operations,
yeah.
finance?
Well, and yes, marketing is kind of superficial, but not really, right? If I have a designer who can create 500 images for social media that I used to have to pay somebody and wait 3 weeks for, that's not superficial,
Yeah, yeah,
right? If
yeah,
I
yeah.
have if I have somebody that's editing my book for me, and that's being done, to 95% perfect, instead of paying somebody and waiting 2 or 3 months. That's not
Sure, sure.
superficial. So yes, I'm seeing some people using it for code. I'm actually seeing that people working in the tech side of the business are using it for coding. I'm definitely seeing some people who are working on the marketing or the accounting automation and finance automation. I'm seeing people that are using it to review legal cases and review briefs and review sales pitches. And, on the automation side, well, yeah, I mean, you look at Zapier has been automating. That's an AI tool, right? If This Then That was an AI tool that was around 6 years ago. So I'm definitely seeing people are automating parts of their business for sure. And again, I think it's the ones that are open to it that say, I don't know how to do this. Can I bring an AI expert in and show them the work that I do and have the AI expert show me how to automate that? Because a lot of companies don't have the skills to do it, but they can show an expert all the stuff they're doing, and that person can make it faster.
Absolutely.
So here's a point though that I want people to remember. Before you use AI to automate a process, decide if you even need to do the process.
Yes,
the mindset should be stop, optimize, automate, outsource, right? Stop doing it completely if you don't need to do it. Then optimize the process, then automate it using AI. If you can't use AI, then outsource it.
Yeah. In many cases, like, a multi-step process that used to take like 10 steps can be reduced to like maybe one step or being eliminated altogether, as you said.
Correct.
Yeah. So one of the last questions I always ask is like, after achieving so much success, like I'm sure you had some mentors, coaches in your life who set you up for success. Like, so can you talk about any one of those people who really impacted your life?
Sure. Years ago, I reached out. Well, first off, I decided that I wanted a mentor when I was the COO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We were about a $50 million company. And I recognized that for me to continue to scale in my role, I had to continue to get better because the company was getting bigger every day. So I wrote down a list of the 5 things I wanted to get better at in business and the areas I wanted to get better at personally. And then once I understood that, I started to think about what were the companies out there that a senior person could help me in? What were the companies that I admired? And the one company that I really admired was Starbucks. They were multinational. They had a great brand, a great training program. They were multi-unit operations. They were back in 2004. They were at the pinnacle of their growth. And I looked at their org chart online. I found online their org chart. I found 3 people that were in senior operations roles. And I went out to all my franchisees and I did a post on LinkedIn and asked if anybody knew these 3 people. One of my franchisees, Drew Boyles in El Segundo, California, said he actually knew all 3 of them because he used to work in the senior team at Starbucks. And he said, the one you're thinking about is the wrong one. This guy is your right one. Let me introduce you. He introduced me to a guy named Greg Johnson. I did a call with Greg. I said, here's how I want to get better at personally. Here's what I want to get better at business-wise. I need you to do a 1-hour call with me every single month and then meet with me for a full day in person every quarter, 1 quarter at your office, 1 quarter at my office, and I'm not going to pay you. And Greg said, okay. He said, this is my chance to give back. There's been lots of people in my career that have helped me. It's my chance to help you. And for 18 months, Greg was my mentor and he was being groomed as the COO at Starbucks. So I had a very, very senior seasoned mentor, but it's because I knew what I was looking to get better at. I'd thought through it. And, it worked out really well.
So you are a good negotiator as well, then.
Well, I was very clear on what I'm looking for. There's a difference between a mentor and a coach. There's a paid, you can also have paid mentors. I've also paid to be in mastermind communities, right? I'm in a couple of mastermind communities now. I'm attending my 6th baby bathwater event this year. I've been to 8 years of the Genius Network, 8 years in Strategic Coach. I was 5 years as an Entrepreneurs Organization member. I've been to 17 Vistage events. I've been to a bunch of Thai global events. I'm in Dan Martell's elite group coaching program. So when you invest in masterminds, that's another lever of mentoring and coaching too. So I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own skill set and growth.
Yeah, that's the best investment one can make for sure. It happens,
especially if you put the ideas in place. I think often people get addicted to coaching and they get addicted to attending these events, but they don't do anything. Absolutely. But if you take the ideas and you put the ideas in place, Yeah. So what I do is anytime I leave an event or I leave a mastermind, I write down the top 10 things that I took, and I commit to putting those top 10 in place, because I might leave with 100 ideas, but I at
Yeah.
least committing to do 10 after every event.
Yeah, spoken like a true COO. Or yeah, implementation is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It has been really enlightening to hear from you and learn from you all these techniques you have implemented in the real world to make a great value. Before I let you go, can you tell us, if people want to reach out and connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way to find me is at CameronHerold.com, and it's HEROLD. But CameronHerold.com has links to my online training, links to the CO Alliance, links to all my 6 books. It has links to my Second in Command podcast. So it's all there at CameronHerold.com.
Awesome. So we'll put those links in the show notes and make it easier for people to find you.
Perfect, Manoj. I love your background as well. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Keep shifting.
Thank you.